Yes, sir. All right. It's time for Diddy Kong Racing. We have a race here in the category all trophy races. The shortest one is the most intense one, I'd say. It's a kind of similar to like a Mario Kart speedrun, where you just do all the tracks once. So, yeah, high speed. And yeah, I'm Giz, and my co-commentator.
I'm Drac, or Draqueus, but no one can pronounce that when you look at it, so I just go by Drac.
Yeah, we're gonna have a race between Sweener, Obiyo, and tridenttail. The top 3 in the category. So yeah, this is gonna be a good race.
It's gonna be really exciting. All trophy races is fantastic. We got 5 different trophies, each with 4 courses, so a total of 20. If you're not as familiar with Diddy Kong Racing, there are 3 main vehicles: the car, the hover, the plane. They all have slightly different mechanics, and we're going to talk about them as we go. But you guys are in for a great treat. It'll be really exciting.
Yes, sir. So we're going to try to talk about as many things as possible, but this is a short category, so let's see. The first thing we can mention is that Obiyo is going to play with the sound on, but the others are not. And the reason for that is, well, we need audio on one of them because people love the music, but generally when people run this category, they do it without the music because it adds lag. So, yeah.
Gotta love N64 hardware, doing their best. Yeah, turning it off just helps general improvement of the game, and but the music is so nice. Yeah, I think we're about ready to go.
Yeah. I also want to see that I just want to mention one thing, and you see that the 3 learners have different screens. Like Sweener and Trident do not have that extra thing. It's because they have set the cart up with not unlocking Adventure 2 because it saves 4 inputs over the course of the run, so it's a tiny thing. Yeah. So Obiyo is playing with a disadvantage. All right, yep. Here we go. So 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we're going into Ancient Lake as our first course, starting off on the car. So most racing games, you hold down that A button and you just do everything you can. Diddy Kong Racing is a little different. You actually want to be tapping that A button because the acceleration is better than the top speed of the vehicle. So you're going to see these racers, you can kind of hear it on a Obiyo screen where it's just kind of like a wham sound on the vehicle, and that's just because it's accelerating each time he pushes that button.
Yeah, and this is a really consistent track, so you can see them being very close here. And yeah, I think the next track, Fossil Canyon, is going to be where everything can happen. It's a track with very uneven terrain and stuff like that, especially at the canyon, in the canyon at the end. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll have to see what happens. Diddy Kong Racing, it's a very fun little kids game that's simple and great to pick up, but at high level it can become very volatile because of just how bouncy it really is. These vehicles don't stick to the ground very much, so you'll see them on every little bit of terrain just kind of bouncing and flying around. I just saw them fly through the canyon using all that speed from the boosts and the balloons to just launch through.
Mm-hmm. It's a trick we call canyonless. It's a reference to another trick I think people have seen in another famous N64 game. And yeah, it's still really even. All of them have been really excited to this for this run. So.
Oh yeah, it's been really exciting watching them, prepare and get ready for it. And we, the Diddy Kong Racing community, definitely support all 3 of these people because they're fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing I always like to mention too is you see them just flying through. Like we just finished a course in about a minute, and all the computer characters are just doing their best. So a lot of racing games have rubber banding, which means they speed up as the further ahead you are. Diddy Kong Racing doesn't have anything like that, so you'll find that we'll be lapping these computer characters once, sometimes even more than once. So they become more stationary obstacles than actual competition.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you practice for this game and you try to run, you can actually expect where the characters are going to be. So they will be pretty prepared, but sometimes it's hard to avoid them anyways because they destroy your line. So yeah, sometimes you'll see them drive into them. All right, it's still really even.
To the fourth track now. We're going to Hot Top Volcano, and now we're actually in a plane, so our car looks a little different. So you're going to see these people going a little bit not quite the intended route. Looks like they're all going the same way. There's two ways to get out of bounds here, and you see they're just doing a boost and a side roll. That gives them a nice amount of speed to essentially shoot themselves below the walls that would push them back in. And then they're able to move along the little checkpoints across the track in order to still follow along the line of where the game thinks you're supposed to be without actually having to be there, which cuts a lot of time. We're going to see out of bounds in a few other courses as well, but this is the good, introductory, we get to break things and skip things parts of the run.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the first tricks you learn in this game, generally.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's also widely used in the 100% and 80% routes as well. So if you've ever seen one of those runs, we get to use that out of bounds for other reasons.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We just finished the first trophy, so that's the first one down. We got 4 more to go.
Mm-hmm. And now it's time for Sherbet Island and the first hovercraft track. And in the hovercraft tracks, you will see them wiggle back and forth, and it's a mechanic we call snaking. And it's actually so that when you turn, you speed up a little bit. So when you go, back and forth on the stick and go in a straight line, you will go straight, but you will increase your speed. And it works for all the kinds of mechanics where, you boost. So you see them wiggle a little faster going out of the boosts. It's to extend the boosts, and then you jump at the end to extend it even more. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to learn here.
Hovercraft tends to be one of the more difficult vehicles to pick up, partially because you have to be able to manage those little wiggles that you do. But it just, honestly, when you're practicing it for such a long time, that analog stick grinds into your thumb.
Oh yes, you can expect to have a lot of blisters and build up some callus when you do a lot of hovercraft. I can promise you that.
Yeah. Just like playing guitar.
Yep, exactly. And then, of course, we only have 3 hovercraft tracks in the game, but 2 of them are in a row. And for the unpracticed people, it can be really painful to do 2 tracks in a row because it's really physically demanding to do hovercraft. But they're doing really well here. It's super even still, and that's what we want to see, right?
Yeah, we actually saw both Obiyo and Trident go into the 3rd lap at, if I'm not mistaken, the same 100th of a second, or maybe 1 frame off. It was very close.
49
Sweener pulling ahead, though.
Yeah, 49 is super good. I think Trident and Obiyo are neck and neck, but Sweener is a few seconds ahead. And Crescent Island is actually one of the tracks that are the most affected by the no music stuff. I'm not sure if you can see it, but if you see on Sweener's and Trident's screens, you will see the boost before the big jump to the ship. You will see that they will be launched backwards. We call that a lagless zipper, and you will not see that on Obiyo's screen. So yeah, this is one of the tracks where it's very noticeable that you can save some time.
For sure. And Crescent Island is, honestly, just aesthetically speaking, probably one of my favorite courses. It just looks it's nice, it's satisfying, the music is great, and launching through the air. Ooh, Sweener just got stuck on the bridge. Got that nice through-the-air boost trying to go over the bridge, but hit that wall instead.
Yeah, and he got stuck there at the end as well, but...
One of the hardest turns in the game, trying to slip in between that post and that wall. If you get stuck on it, sometimes you can just get caught completely. So now we're going to Treasure Caves. Treasure Caves are probably one of the more consistent tracks. It's basically just a circle, so you just keep boosting around it. Sweener did get stuck a little bit in the beginning, which caused everybody to get really caught up. So we are still neck and neck, just about a second to a couple seconds off on time here.
Yeah, and I think Treasure Caves is one of those tracks that you don't really like in this category because even though it's very short, it's extremely inconsistent. There are not really any good strats to be consistent here. As you can see, they like boost into the cave and try to land on top of the boost, which is very, very difficult to do. And
especially if you bonk on the wall a couple times, those NPCs start to catch up. And on Sweener's screen, we saw as he launched into that cave, he had just a whole mountain of them covering that boost track.
Yeah, and he's eating a banana, it's suiting for the moment.
Absolutely, and those bananas work like the coins in a lot of other Mario Kart games, so they increase your speed by, I believe it's 1%?
It's 2.5%, yep.
2.5%.
Yeah,
that's right. So you can take up to 10 for those boosts. That's up to 25% total. You can hold up to 15, but those extra 5 don't make a difference. So generally the idea is get those early bananas so that they can just carry you through the next 2 laps. We're getting into more plane now as well. And now that this one doesn't have an out of bounds, I want to explain a little bit more about how plane works. So in a lot of the other vehicles, so car and hover, you want to be holding down a lot of buttons. Plane is different in the regard that you don't really want to hold anything. You want to hold on to R at all times unless you're tapping it for those rolls. But you don't want to basically ever touch the A button because if you hold onto that A button, it's going to drag you down to your vehicle's top speed. But if you're rolling and boosting, it's going to keep you far above that. So if you've got practice in a track, you basically almost never touch the A button.
Exactly, because you don't want to lose your boost speed, and the barrel rolls gives you a tiny boost, and of course the balloons and the zippers are going to give you bigger boosts. But yeah, you just, after you hit the first zipper in Everfrost Peak, you never touch the A button again, so you just carry yourself all the way through the entire track on that. And I just want to say that Sweden got a 55 there, which is actually insane.
That is really good. That's a very good time.
Yeah, it's one of the best times you can see.
And plane is one of the more unforgiving vehicles as well, because if you hit a wall, you're duct taped to that wall for about 5 minutes, feels like.
Yeah, I think to be more specific, I think it's around 5-6 seconds, which is a lot in this game.
Right. If you're completing a lap in 20 seconds, then 6 seconds is about a third of that, and we're still very close. Sweener's a little bit behind. He has had some bumps and bruises here and there, but he's still able to keep up and hold that pace with everybody else.
Yeah,
we're maybe 3 seconds off, if that.
Yeah, I think it was only the Treasure Caves was really rough for him, but other than that, it's been really, really close here. 119 is good.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention, I'm not sure if people notice, but if you hold right on the loop, you actually go faster. So that's why you see them hugging the right wall in the loops. But yeah, now it's the snowball field.
I thought it was just because they were afraid and they just want to hold onto the railing while they're going upside down. Safety first, everybody.
Exactly. That's why you should not do, what? Oh, wow. Obiyo got smashed. Put smashed by the snowball.
Don't drive cars underneath snowballs. 10 out of 12 doctors agree that that's a bad idea. The other 2 doctors also agree that that was a bad idea, but they were on lunch, so we didn't get to gather their votes in time.
Exactly. And this track is really inconsistent in general because of those things. But the snowballs are in cycles, so you can kind of expect where they are supposed to be. But since your laps are going to be a bit inconsistent, it's still hard to plan for.
And so now we're in Frosty Village, which is one of the laggiest courses in the game. Even with music off, their frame rate just kind of chugs through because the N64 could really only do so much. You're going to see some fancy bounces through here. Those jumps on the hills and the tree areas, just trying to preserve that boost as much as possible. And there's, and Giz, you can kind of help me out with the name of the trick through the trees that helps you just like launch through. It's normally done in time trials.
Yeah, the salt cure jump.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's an old runner called Salt Cure who started bouncing, but it's they are not going to do that because it's extremely inconsistent and you lose time if you miss it.
Yeah, and it's especially hard in these balloon races because you have your N64 trying to process the balloons as well as all the other characters, and so you get that extra bit of lag that's going to make it really difficult to get those good jumps. So they just go for an average jump, which still launches them at a really good speed. Obiyo right now is getting a pretty good lead in terms of how close it's been. So
yeah, 105, low 105. I just want to say that's extremely solid. All of them got good times. It's really easy to lose time because, you know, if you go slightly too far to the left or to the right in the jump, for example, you will miss the next zipper and you lose a lot of speed.
So now we're getting into Boulder Canyon, which is my least favorite course, bar none. It's another hovercraft course, which are already really tricky. You can see right now they just use those boosts to launch along the wall. So in hovercraft, sometimes it's actually beneficial to hit a wall on the side because the angle that the game's going to try to shove you in is actually going to be pushing you in the direction you want to go. So using those boosts on that turn helps them really get through that little section really quickly. You're going to see it again on Obiyo's screen and then Sweener's.
Yeah,
it really makes it look satisfying.
Yeah, and this is one of the few tracks where you actually do not use the boost immediately. As you saw there in the beginning, they actually get a double, you know, the power up. And here for Obiyo, and he boosts into the next one, so he can extend the boost for as long as possible. Yeah, and
there's 3 levels to every item that you pick up, so the more that you pick up, the better they get.
And this is also the only track with shifting music. It is like the transitions twice, so it has 3 different, what do we want to call it, kinds of tracks or whatever.
Yeah.
And Greenwood Village, it's Sweener's favorite, so let's see if he can get ahead again, because it's one of Obiyo's least favorite tracks, so we'll see.
And that's fair. It's a very polarizing course. When you're going through these tree tunnels, one wrong move, especially right where Sweener just went through, incredibly cleanly, if I may add, if you hit any one of those walls, that whole section of the course is just doomed for you because of how tight a lot of those turns are and the speed that we're going at. It looks like all of our runners are going pretty cleanly through the course.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty good time.
Yeah, and all of them are actually using the sharp turn. If you press the R button at the same time as you brake, you can actually turn really sharply. One of the greatest mechanics in this game, in my opinion. And they are taking it a little safe there in in these sharp turns here. You can see him. Well, yeah, you can see them going up on 2 wheels. Yeah, as I predicted before, Sweener had a really clean one. He loves it. But here we go. So this race
this is the big one.
Yeah, this is the big one. So this race is incredibly clean and extremely tight. But this track has the hardest out of bounds. And yeah, let's just hold our breath here.
1, 2, 3. Look at that. Tridenttail as well, not going for a roll, which for us, terrifying, heart stopping. That roll gives you that extra speed and a better angle to launch in that tiny little triangle between the sky and the top of those hills that you could just barely slip through with enough speed.
Trident with a loop. Man, that's scary.
Just a little bit of extra swag since he didn't do the roll going in. He's like, I gotta show off somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this track is also really difficult to navigate outside because the box is really tiny, and if you go outside of it, you will get respawned at the starting line. So that's not a good idea.
And it won't count as a lap either, which is the roughest part. It's such a long course, but if you go out of bounds, you saw as on the little mini map, the little arrows, got to skip basically the entire thing. With the way the checkpoints are lined up, those invisible little bars that tell the game where you are on a course, you can skip most of the physical course because you're still hitting those invisible checkpoints.
Yeah, exactly. And Haunted Woods, another inconsistent track, but they're all doing really well so far.
Great music, though.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite in the game, for sure. Oh, wow. So that's something that can happen, is that the CPUs usually act when you act. So that means that when you shoot someone, they will do something back. And that's what happened to Trident there. He shot him with a homing rocket, and then he dropped a spike ball on top of his head. So, yeah. All right.
As we get into the later courses, we're going to see more of those like spike balls and bubbles from the green balloons. So we're actually in the last trophy section right now, and there's going to be a lot of those little green balloons scattered throughout.
Yep.
So and this is Space Dust Alley. We have to avoid the space meatballs.
Yeah, and the spaceship.
Correct. You will be shot at in this course, and you just have to remain calm, keep doing loop-de-loops, and just hope that everything turns out okay. There's a lot of like tight spaces, like Obiyo just went through that tight tunnel, launching into that cave. It's one of those courses where if you hit a wall, you're going to be stuck for a while, but if you don't hit any walls, it's so satisfying to watch just the speed continue to rack up. Sweener was doing really solid. It did get just barely hit on that wall there on the outside of those, and the entrance to that cave. The hitboxes are exactly perfect, and they're exactly what they look like, we promise.
Yeah, and this is usually called the hardest track in the game, and that's why if you watch like runs of this on speedrun.com or something, you will see that people start with this trophy because you can do the trophies in any order, and this is the hardest track, so usually they want to start with that. But is Obiyo going to get a sub? Oh, he got a sub 110. That's crazy.
That's a really good time.
It's insane. Yeah, it's actually insane. This race is so good. Like, I can't believe how well they're playing, actually.
And they're still like really close. Like, this is really amazing seeing a race get so close to the end, and they're only about 6 seconds difference from each other. So there's a lot that can still happen in this course. This section, I would consider this one of the more difficult, and that just might be me personally. Some of these turns through these cave sections are really tight, and trying to find the way to drift through them is not easy.
No, I do agree with you. This is a really, really tough track, and it's also, like you mentioned in Frost Village, this is one of the laggiest tracks, and therefore Obiyo is a little bit at a disadvantage, but this is usually called his specialty track, along with Space Dust Alley. So yeah.
And we can see more of the loop-de-loops happening as they're hugging that right wall, which is kind of just pushes them through a little bit faster. Obiyo right now going for the out of bounds.
Oh my god.
And gets it. Launching through the Aether into that third lap.
That is a crazy trick to go for. I can't believe you went for that.
Yeah, I can't believe it worked out. That's amazing. So the way that trick works roughly is getting that boost and kind of going at a hard angle to the side. It just kind of shoves you off the loop, but this course still tries to carry you along it. So that big like launch in the air kind of carries you, and you can angle your vehicle very carefully to push yourself towards that finish line. So rare treat to see in an ATR race. So
yeah, that's going for that. Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe he went for it.
Now in Star City, one of the prettiest courses. Shout out to the Epcot Ball. So this course has a lot of tight 90-degree turns, which can be very tricky for new players on all three vehicles. Because one of the cool parts about Diddy Kong Racing is you can actually race with most of the vehicles on most of the courses. And this one's tricky in all three of them, but so visually satisfying. Look at all those colors.
Yeah, this is amazing. And it's really easy to miss that zipper that Sweener missed there, because you need to not use the A button, you just have to drop down or hold up on the stick or something like that to hit it. But if you go a little too fast, then you will just fly over it.
Yeah, because even though these are ground-based vehicles, you can still angle them up and down. And you've seen, like, in the tube there, when Sweener just went through it, he was holding down on the stick to kind of angle the car upward in order to get that maximum height, so that he's carrying that boost speed through that tunnel.
Oof, here we go. It's less than a second apart between Obiyo and Sweener right now. And trying
So we're
this
going to
like
the
5.
final course, Spaceport Alpha, widely considered best song in the game. This is also going to be another out-of-bounds course. So this is a bit of a trickier one, and it changes based on version. I believe there are some versions where you just can't do it. Isn't that right, Giz?
Yeah, this trick is only possible on the Japanese version. Oof, Obiyo went for a really fast strat that's risky, but you got it.
Looks like we were 3 for 3. Everybody got the out of bounds. And at this point, it's just make a triangle. You've got the upper left-hand loop, the little curve part. You got that corner on the bottom right, and then the curve on the bottom left. And you're just making a triangle between those 3 points. And as long as you stick to that, you're good to go. One of the nice tricks while they're doing this final lap is watching those arrows on the left and right sides of the screen. That tells you what checkpoint you're on.
In Obiyo, he wins.
And that's it.
Wow. That is a crazy close race. I can't believe that. Such high level gameplay. It's actually ridiculous how good this is.
Crazy consistent from all 3 runners for sure. Now we all get to appreciate the post-race demo of the vehicles following the course, as even the CPUs can't race these courses because they just keep bonking on all the walls. But really, really well done. Huge shout outs to all the runners. Did such a fantastic job.
Wow, this is insane. 23:37, 23:39, and 23:41. And the world record is a 23:18. So that's how good this is. I think tridenttail's PB is a 23:36 at 3rd place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the level played here was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Amazing race.
That was fantastic. And we can see, like, even if you're bonking into walls, right, or it feels like you're having a bad time, as long as you focus in and keep driving and keep going, a lot can happen in these kinds of races. So, really, really impressive all around. Double thumbs up from Sweener. Love to see it.
Yep. That was crazy. Yeah.
Bam.
That was all trophy races.
Thank you guys very much for that really, really nail-biting race of Diddy Kong Racing. It was neck and neck there for a while, but I mean, I think we know that the real winners were us, the people watching. Got a couple of donations here for you because it was going too fast to even get any in. We had a $1,337 donation from Adamantoid17, who says, "What do you call it when Donkey Kong gets a cavity?" Tooth decay. I want to make sure I got that one in there. $500 from Olympus72. "Hello, Diddy Kong Racing family. Have a great race tonight. Obiyo, don't reset on my account. Sweener, Space Dust, yup. And good luck, Uncle Trident." Thank you very much. $25 from SweenerGal92. "Go Sweenerdog. Crush that Diddy King. Proudest sister ever." Aw, that's adorable. We've got $50 from Chubbo Wubbo. "Hey Sweener, nice run, bro. A little on the slow side, but the pace is overall pretty good and your splits have just the right amount of green. Your solar panels pals rate it 10 out of 10. Love you, buddy."
I'll check it out.
And we've got more coming up, but don't you go away. We're going to send it over to a quick ad from our friends over at Twitch.
I see him up ahead. Let's rock and roll. the squadrons. There's one more to go. I'll go it alone from here. Never give up. Trust your instincts.
Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 Online is proud to be presented by Devolver Digital. Devolver Digital brings you games like Serious Sam Siberian Mayhem, co-developed by Timelock Studio and Crow Team, published by Devolver Digital. It launches on January 25th. Serious Sam Siberian Mayhem took an unusual path, starting as an ambitious project from longtime Serious Sam community modding team Timelock Studio. It quickly evolved into a standalone expansion under the guidance of Crow Team. You can find out more at devolver.link/Siberian Mayhem. That's one word, Siberian Mayhem, SIBERIANMAYHEM. Check them out. Serious Sam, Siberian Mayhem. All right, welcome back to Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 Online, powered by Twitch. I'm cartridgeblowers, and we're here to read a little more of your donations. We got $20 from Metroid Master. Absolutely had to donate during the Diddy Kong racing run, as it was the first game I had as a kid, and I love seeing my childhood get broken. Oh. Shout outs to the runners and the rest of the DKR community. Put this towards the other game of my childhood, Ocarina of Time, which it's made a little bit of a comeback, y'all, but you don't have too much longer to donate. Right now, we're going to send it over to an interview. We've got the immaculate Kungfufruitcup with a few of our future runners. Take it away.
Why, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Kungfufruitcup, back with you all again this evening. And now I am in my Zelda overalls because I'm here talking with Gymnast86, who is getting ready to do the upcoming either Majora's Mask 3D any percent run or Ocarina of Time 3D any percent run. How are you doing, Gymnast?
Hey, Kung Fu, I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be on for another interview this time.
I know, always a pleasure talking or hosting or doing what, any kind of Zelda interaction that we've had. It's been great. Also, this is Thor, by the way, for those who I'm sure are asking. Also excited for the runs. I know you can't tell, but definitely excited.
All the dogs are excited.
Yeah, I'm so pumped for this evening, this whole schedule this evening. I'm going to be up all night watching Zelda, watching Splatoon, watching the Awful Block. It's going to be amazing. But I want to get into a little bit of the Zelda stuff before we go on to the next run. So I wanted to know, as a man of a million Zelda games, like what made you decide to pick the 3D games to be running lately and submit?
Well, the 3D Zelda games have always just kind of been like the games that I guess speak the most to me in terms of speedrunning. I don't think there's really like a logical reason as to why I like them. I just kind of do. And it's been really interesting, the fact that I don't actually know which game I'm going to be running before the run starts. So I've had to go through, a sort of different way of practicing to prepare for this run because I've had to practice both games at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And so I actually wanted to ask about that because obviously I was like, well, we could talk about one game, but we really can't because it's still kind of a toss up. Like Majora's Mask has the lead. So I have, we want to get into that a little bit, but what did you do to best prepare to be ready for both of these runs? I know you were like earlier, like, well, just practice, but like, what would you say are maybe the differences that you had to do separately for each run to feel like you were ready, strategy wise?
Well, right. So, I mean, both games are pretty similar. Link moves around kind of the same way in both of them, but there are a bunch of mechanical differences. Like, the camera is vastly different between both games. So, like, depending on what game I'm playing, I have to be sure that I know what the camera is going to do every time that I move it around or move Link around. And obviously, a lot of the tricks that we do are different as well. Each game is depending on which game gets shown off, each game has a bunch of different complicated tricks that we will get to show off during the run. So regardless of which game gets chosen, I will be excited to show it off.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're going to do a fantastic job as always. Now, what would you say then are the hardest tricks for both games? Like what would be the hardest for each one?
Well, the hardest trick for Ocarina of Time 3D is this one called Early Furore's Wind, where it's really hard to explain shortly, but basically Link is going to rise up into the air really fast, and then he's going to side hop and clip through a wall to get into the Furore's Wind fairy fountain without the use of any explosives. And that's definitely the hardest trick in that game. But Majora's Mask 3D is definitely the harder one of the two. The end of the run involves a lot of chaos, I would say. There's a trick at the end of the run that we have to do called the Moon Warp, right? The estimate for the Majora's Mask 3D run is 45 minutes, and with only that amount of time for the run, we're not going to really be doing a whole lot in Termina. We're basically just going to be rushing to the final boss as fast as possible. And the Moon Warp is basically the culmination of one of the most complicated techniques in the game known as SRM, which we will get into more of if Majora's Mask 3D gets chosen. And it's a doozy. It's really hard, and if you fail it, you have to retry it again, which takes multiple minutes. So it's
so the setup for it is like serious minutes of putting it together. Okay, wow. Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit more about it, but I mean, I think that kind of describes it for you. So, I mean, there's another reason to kind of help Majora's Mask win if you want to see the more complicated setup. Both are great games. I love Zelda in general a ton, as I'm sure you all know, just like Gymnast. But yeah, it's just interesting to know, like, the differences between the two and like the hardest parts that may come about for you. Like, is there any other like difficulties that might come up that you need to be aware of, like depending on one game or the other?
Well, yeah, Majora's Mask 3D also has a lot more RNG than Ocarina of Time 3D, so I have to be aware of, all of the RNG things that can happen, both during the Moon Warp trick itself. There's RNG that can ruin that trick, and the RNG of the final boss in Majora's Mask 3D, which is, of course, Majora. Majora is something, especially when we only have a few items to be able to try and beat it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, so much harder. I'm usually like, okay, Fair Stadium Mask all the way. It makes it super easy.
Fair Stadium Mask easy. It's like, I'm afraid we won't have that this time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Before I let you go, I'm curious to know, and it's okay to be honest, which one would you have picked if you could just pick one of them? If you were the one deciding, which game would you rather run right now?
To put less pressure on myself, I probably would have chosen Ocarina of Time 3D. It is the easier one. It's the less volatile one. I know that I will 100% hit the estimate if Ocarina of Time 3D gets chosen. Can't say the same for Majora's Mask 3D. So
okay, well,
that would have been my pick.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's a super fair and great way to put it. But either way, it's going to be amazing. I know Thor and I are really looking forward to watching it. But yes, thank you so much for chatting with me once again, Gymnast. Please, everyone, stick around. Put those donations in. Solidify that win for which game Gymnast is going to be running coming up. And not only do we have that, but we have Splatoon next, which, come on, Splatoon. I was just talking with the runner for that game as well. So please get excited for the rest of the night. All of the runs coming up. I'm like so hyped. I can't stop talking about it. I'm going to let you go. Hand it back up to the host so that they can get more games going. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for that fantastic interview, Kung Fu Fruit Cup. Gymnast said that he wanted Ocarina of Time. I told you I wanted Ocarina of Time. People, I know you want Ocarina of Time, and yet we're still so far behind. 14,258 to 28,422 on Majora's Mask 3D side. We've got Splatoon coming up pretty soon here, but first let me give you just a couple donations. We've got $100 from NES Jumpman, who just says, #banana power. I can get behind that. I need potassium. $200 from Volantis. Let's go Diddy Kong Racing. Been looking forward to this race all week, representing the DKR community well. You know what? It was great. Thank you so much for your generous donation, Volantis. What a good time. And you know what? I am actually out of time. Folks, it is time for me to hand the mic off for the night, but fear not, fellow cute chatters, for AGDQ 2022 continues. I'll be back on Saturday for Halo and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Following me up is the incredibly talented The Crank Machine, who may be a kid, may be a squid, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm happy to find out along with you. I'll see y'all on Saturday. Until then, take care, chat. I love you.
Thank you. It's time for more AGDQ 2022 online. I am the Crank Machine, and I'll be your host as we ease into the late evening. Coming up are some of the most anticipated runs of this marathon, and as we get those runs ready, I would love to read you some donations, such as a $50 donation from Mustached Miner, who says, "Comment." Thank you very much. We also have a $250 donation from Anonymous that says, "Comments? Take my money." Thank you so much for your contribution to the Prevent Cancer Foundation. Let's see. All right, and we have another $500 donation from Anonymous. Thank you so much, the ever so generous Anonymous. And on that note, I am excited to tell you that Splatoon 2 is ready. Take it away, Talon.